31 people boarded a plane in Lisbon. None of them walked off it. The team that was supposed to land in Turin simply did not. File number 2 opens here, on a hill above the city, in fog. By the end of this file, you will know how an entire first-team squad vanished in a single afternoon and what the silence afterwards actually sounded like. The desk lamp stays on. To understand the loss, you have to understand the side. In the mid-1940s, one Italian club played a different sport to everyone else. The rest of the country was simply trying to keep up. Torino Football Club, based in Turin in the industrial north, had become the dominant force in Italian football. The record says 5 consecutive league titles, beginning with the 1943-44 season and running through the 1948-49 season. 5 straight championships, 5 seasons at the summit. No club in the country could touch them, and for a stretch, neither could most of Europe. The team had a name the press gave them: Il Grande Torino, the Great Torino. At the center of it all stood the captain, Valentino Mazzola, midfielder, organizer, leader, a footballer who, by contemporary accounts, could decide a match with a single pass and a single sentence. Mazzola had been signed from Alessandria in 1942, alongside a forward named Ezio Loic. The pair became the spine of the team. Wherever Mazzola moved, Loic followed, and goals followed them both. Around them, a squad took shape. Goalkeeper Valerio Bacigalupo between the posts. Defenders Dino Ballerin and Aldo Ballerin at the back. Forward Guglielmo Gabetto finishing the moves. A side built to outlast eras. Torino supplied the majority of the Italian national team during this period. Contemporary reports estimated that as many as 10 of Italy's starting 11 wore the Granata shirt of Torino. The club was the country. The country was the club. And here is where the file tilts. If Torino were Italy, then a match against Portugal was not a friendly. It was a state visit, a delegation of the national game itself, sent abroad to represent a country still rebuilding from the war. On the 4th of May 1949, Torino played Portuguese side Benfica in Lisbon. They won 4-3, a respectable result, a routine afternoon abroad. Nothing in the scoreline hinted at what was coming. After the match, the squad, the coaching staff, club officials, and a number of journalists boarded a Fiat G212 airliner to fly home to Turin. The aircraft was a 3-engine workhorse of the post-war Italian skies. As the plane approached Turin, the weather closed in. Dense fog and poor visibility settled over the city. The crew attempted to land at Turin Aeritalia Airport, and the aircraft descended into a white, featureless wall. At approximately 5 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, local time, the aircraft struck the rear wall of the Basilica di Superga. The basilica sits on a hill overlooking Turin. The hill did not give way. All 31 people on board were killed. Players, coaching staff, club officials, journalists, flight crew, 18 of the dead were registered Torino players, along with manager Leslie Leavesley and his staff. The plane did not catch fire. Witnesses described a quiet crash. That, in its own way, was the cruelest detail. A catastrophe measured not in spectacle but in the sudden absence of 31 heartbeats. Back in Turin, families waited at the airport. Some of the players had reportedly told loved ones they were uneasy about flying. That detail is reported, not proven, and the file keeps it that way. Among the dead was Captain Valentino Mazzola, aged 30. He left a wife and 2 sons. One of those boys, Sandro Mazzola, would later become a star of Inter Milan and the Italian national team. The disaster happened only days before the final round of the 1948-49 Serie A season. Torino had been leading the league table. There was no side left to finish the job. The fixtures could not be played in any normal sense. The Italian league made a decision. Torino were awarded the 1948-49 Scudetto, their 5th consecutive title, as a mark of respect. The trophy went to a squad that no longer existed. For the remaining 4 fixtures, Torino fielded their youth team. And in a gesture that is hard to overstate, opposing clubs agreed to do the same. The last matches of the season were played by boys. An estimated 500,000 mourners lined the streets of Turin for the joint funeral. A city of industry, stoic and quiet by reputation, came out in numbers that have rarely been matched since. The Basilica di Superga, the very building the aircraft struck, became the site of annual memorial events. The wound and the bandage are the same place. That is how Turin chose to remember. Torino did not win another Serie A title until the 1975-76 season. More than a quarter of a century had passed. Generations of Italian fans grew up watching a club try to outrun a single afternoon. It is reported, and not proven, that some of the players had previously expressed unease about flying, and that alternative transport had been considered for the return. The file flags this as legend, not record. It is also reported, and not proven, that the Lisbon friendly against Benfica had been arranged in part to raise funds for the club and to honor a request from the Portuguese Federation. The file keeps this as rumor. Consider what the city had to absorb in 72 hours. The team that was Italy. The players who taught the country how to win after a war. The manager, the staff, the journalists, gone in a single descent. The tragedy is frequently cited as one of the worst disasters in the history of world football. The file treats that as fact, but also as understatement. Most disasters leave a city with a future. This one redrew a sport. When historians write about the post-war Italian game, the timeline is not smooth. It is divided into everything before the hill and everything after. The crash is the seam, everything else is stitching. So the next time you hear the name Il Grande Torino, understand what is actually being named. Not just a side that won 5 titles, a side that never got the chance to find out how high its ceiling really was. Every remaining opponent fielded their youth team too. The championship was decided by boys, in honor of ghosts. The best side European football had yet produced simply stopped existing. Next case on the file. A striker disappears from a dressing room at halftime in a stadium that did not have a missing persons report for another week. Subscribe to the Football Files to follow the investigation.